Good morning and good evening, students. Fourth stage students at the English Department, College of Arts, Ahlul Bayt University. I'm Assistant Lecturer Hajar Mahmoud, and today we are going to have our first online session entitled The Pragmatics. According to your textbook, The Study of Language by George Yule, 4th edition. Tonight we are going to discuss chapter 10, Pragmatics. In our previous lectures, we have discussed the conceptual meaning and the literal meaning of words. However, now we are moving away from the conceptual meaning. Tonight, or in this session, we are going to discuss the different definitions of pragmatics, and we are going to see and to know about the notions within this field of study, which are Deixis, reference, اللي من عنده رح ناخذ الانفرنس والanaphora and presupposition. Now we move on to our first step in our lecture, which is what is meant by pragmatics. What is meant by the hidden meaning, the interpreted meaning, what is meant by the associative meaning. In our previous lectures back at class, we have discussed what is meant by semantics, and I have told you that according to Yule, semantics is concerned with the conceptual meaning. For example, if I say what is meant by a pen, or what pen means, someone might say pen is a plastic instrument used to write on papers, so I recognize the word pen. However, others who are, for example, journalists, news writers, etc., might consider pen as a weapon, right? Now, within semantics, we weren't concerned with what I mean by, what you mean by, what he means by, what they mean by, okay? The word they are saying or we are saying. In semantics, we are concerned with what the word means, right? So that's why it was completely objective. Now we come to pragmatics. Pragmatics depends on what? Depends on not what the words literally mean. Rather, depends on the speaker meaning. If you remember semantics, علم الدلالة, is concerned with what the words literally mean, not what the speaker wants them to mean. إذا تذكرون. However, pragmatics is the opposite of semantics. Now we are going to study what the speakers mean, what I mean by pen, and what pen represents to me. طبعا هاي this is a slip of the tongue, ورح ناخذها إن شاء الله in our next lectures إن شاء الله. In chapter 12, in chapter 12, the brain and language, okay, which I make a lot. Now back to pragmatics. Pragmatics is defined by many scholars. عندها هواي تعريف عرفها أكثر من رائد بعلم اللغة, and I chose a few definitions that will help you understand or fully understand what is meant by pragmatics. The first definition is that pragmatics is the study of the contextual meaning communicated by a speaker and interpreted by a listener. You can find this definition on your book, page 128. Okay, by reading now we are considering the invisible meaning, right? Now let's see step by step the contextual meaning. what is meant by the contextual meaning. Pragmatics deals with words in context. So we need to know first what is meant by context, right? Pragmatics deals with the speaker's meaning and how the listener interprets this meaning, as if there is a process between the speaker and the listener, وكأنما أكو عملية تفاهم بين المتحدث والمستمع. The second definition is that pragmatics is the study of the relation between the linguistic forms and its users. So each person has a certain linguistic forms, has a certain meaning that he wants to deliver. He presupposes or assumes that the hearer knows about, etc., and we shall take them one by one. The last one, it is the study of what the speaker means rather than what words or phrases might mean by themselves. طبعا لكم الخيار باعتماد أي أحد من هذين التعريف. However, you can choose any one of these three definitions. There are tons of other definitions for pragmatics, yet we are dealing with the invisible meaning, we are dealing with the contextual meaning, and we are dealing with the speaker's meaning interpreted by the listener. That's it. So, with regard to pragmatics, I'm not dealing only with words. I'm dealing with how the words are said, where the words are said, when the words are, they are said by whom and delivered to whom. Okay, so everything counts in the pragmatics, not only in speaking طبعا, also in writing everything counts. Here in this picture, the font also counts. The way we write, font means the way we write, صح? So if on the left, I will always find you from the way it is written, and the heart shape I means what? Means I love you, right? Maybe. So this is an interpreted meaning by myself. It means that I'm promising someone. It means that I am friendly, being friendly, right? Look at the second picture right next to it. الصورة اللي بصفها تماما. I will always find you. From the way it is written, من طريقة كتابتها, you can see, you can understand that this is what? This is a threat. This is something dangerous. Maybe even the color red is something what? Dangerous. Blood, danger, thriller, etc. So everything counts in the pragmatics. We should pay attention to everything. The first step to understand meaning within the concept or within the pragmatic perspective, حسب pragmatics, we need to consider context, السياق. The context is of two types, linguistic context and the physical context. Let's see what is meant by both. Linguistic context is the set of the surrounding words that affect the meaning of the words. يعني شنو? For example, the word bank ممكن تكون which is bank is chosen by Yule because it is a homonym. تعرفون شنو يعني homonym? Homonym, two words with the same form, with the same pronunciation, but two different meanings. Sometimes bank means a financial institution, sometimes it means a river. So how can I distinguish between the two? How can I find the meaning of the word? I need either to go back to the linguistic context or the physical context. Then, according to the linguistic context, the words before and after, يعني if I see words or if I hear or if I read words like withdraw, money, cash, building, then it means what? A financial institution. Words that surround the word bank, if they are, for example, calm, trees, environment, then we are dealing with what? A river. This is the linguistic context. The physical context is on the ground. Where the words is said and where it is when it is said. Tamam. For example, if it is said downtown or right in the city between the buildings, then we are dealing with what? With a financial institution. If I am standing, for example, next to a cab and he says, do you want me to take you to the bank downtown? ما ممكن يكون a river downtown, so I assume that he is what? Telling me, or he is asking to, or offering to take me to the financial institution. So the second concept, notion we are going to study today is Deixis. In Arabic they are أسماء الإشارة. For example, if I say, oh, here she comes. Oh, there she goes. And then what I'm doing, I am pointing through language. I am pointing via language. So deictic expressions or deixis are expressions used to point at things, to point at persons, to point at time, to point at place. Accordingly, they are what? Classified into different types. The first type is person deixis, which are words or phrases used to point to persons like him, them, Sarah, Joseph, etc. Spatial deixis, words or phrases used to point to location, like here, there, here she goes, there she goes. It's near the hospital. That boy shot the ball or shot the duck, etc. Temporal deixis, words or phrases used to point at time. For example, here she comes now, or here she is coming now, or then she went home. Tomorrow I'll see her. So you see, in many sentences we can find more than one deixis, with more than one meaning. All by them all we refer to persons, things, place and time, etc. Now you are supposed to do these sentences and find the types of deixis used. However, I'm going to do one. I'll choose number 2. Look at them, they are very far. Look, it's a verb. It is not an expression used to point at anything. However, it makes you look at something, right? Or makes you see something. At them. Them is a word that is used to refer to more than one person. So, them is what? Person deixis. They is also a word that points to more than one person. So, it is what? Person deixis. Are is a verb. Very is a modifier. It is not used to point at anything. Far. Even when I say the word far, what do you do when you say far? You move your hands away and point to something, right? Which is not near, far. So I'm pointing by my hands, and I also am pointing by my language, my linguistic units or terms. Very far. Far is what? Spatial deixis. I suppose you can do all other 3 sentences, number 1, 3, and 4. A very easy task, I believe. Now we move on to reference. Reference is an act in which a speaker or a writer uses linguistic forms, any kind of forms, ممكن nouns, names, pronouns, etc., noun phrases, to enable the listener or the reader to identify something. So I'm not pointing like the Deixis, which طبعا راح استخدمها. I will use it in reference. No, I'm not referring, I am identifying. This is the difference. This is the main difference between Deixis and reference. In Deixis, we knew or we learned that through language we can point at something, right? احنا نقدر نشير إلى شيء ما بواسطة الديكسز أسماء الإشارة. However, reference is what? Is the use of deixis, for example, or any other linguistic form to identify something, a person, or anything. ممكن نستخدم, we can use linguistic forms just like proper nouns, Chomsky, Jennifer, صح? Chomsky, for example, for a scientist, Jennifer for my sister, Jane for my friend, etc. Or I can use noun phrases like my aunt, the cat. I can use pronouns like he and she, etc. So Chomsky and Jennifer, for me, they are known. For the hearer, they are also known, right? معروفين. However, we can also refer to things or people whom we are not sure what to call them. يعني لازم أمك قالت لك جيب هذا اللي موجود مثلا بفلان مكان. هو شنو هذا? You don't know, right? So when your mother says bring that thing or bring that blue thing, bring that fluffy thing, etc., she can't, for example, recall the name, she can't recall its reference, yet she refers to it by using unambiguous or by using such an expression, the blue thing or etc. See, look at him. Here him is used as what? A pronoun reference. The women in the red. The woman in the red, there, definite article. I referred to a specific person. صح? So now you know who is the woman I'm talking about. If I have a teacher and she always says be quiet, I can't recall her name. I can call her what? Mrs. Be Quiet. نفس الشيء ممكن bring that blue thing. جيب هاي هذا الأزرق وانت ما تعرف شنو الأزرق. So be quiet, Mrs. Be Quiet is the use of vague expressions, ambiguous expressions, definitions ممكن مثل قلنا the blue thing. Names, Mr. Kawasaki, المثال عندكم بالكتاب, to refer to things or persons. Now with regard to reference, if you have noticed, sometimes I use a name, then in other times I use a pronoun, right? So there must be a difference in reference here. The first mentioned reference is called antecedent, and the second mentioned reference is called anaphora. So the anaphoric reference is the expressions or the expression of one used to maintain reference to something or someone already mentioned. يعني شنو? What does this mean? Let's see this sentence. A man was looking at the children, then he disappeared and left them. A man, this is what? A reference, right? And a noun reference, was looking at the children. Children is also what? A reference. So these two references are what? Antecedent, because they are the first mentioned. بعدين من أجي استخدمهم. Then when they are used in pronouns, right? So What do I call these pronouns? Anaphoric reference, because they refer back to something already mentioned. So now we need to recognize the speaker's meaning, right? When we are doing pragmatics, we need to know what the speaker means. So to recognize the speaker meaning, we need to arrive at the correct inference. And then هو شنو الانفرنس? What does it mean? An inference is any additional information used by the listener to create a connection between what is said and what must be meant. يعني if I say I'm cold, now this is a statement said by your friend, your sister, your colleague, your classmate, etc. This does not mean that you should say, oh yes, it's cold, or no, it's not cold. I'm cold. You should infer, you should know the hidden meaning, or what I must have meant by I'm cold. You should search for additional information. طبعا additional information, they are not there, ما موجودة. You infer it. أنت تستخرجها. Okay? So this is what is meant by inference. If I say I'm cold, this means what? I want you to close the door, or to close the window, or to give me a blanket if I'm about to sleep. Let's consider this example. Can I look at your Chomsky? Now, Chomsky is a person, right? He's an author, he's a scientist. Now, according to me, I'm the hero of this question, and I need to answer very correctly, right? I need to respond. لازم استجيب لهذا السؤال حتى ما ينقطع any communication between us. تمام? So there should be no misunderstanding, no breaking down the communication between us. I need to respond very correctly. Can I look at your Chomsky? Now Chomsky is what? Suppose Chomsky is an author of a book. Now here my classmate or my colleague or my friend is asking me to look at a chapter, right? If I say, for example, can I look at your math? I don't have a math, but I do have a book. So here I should infer that Chomsky is a book, math is also a book. Now we move on to presupposition. What is meant by presupposition? It is a very simple concept in pragmatics. هذا مبدأ كلش بسيط في التداولية. Presupposition refers to what the speaker assumes is true or known by a listener. يعني من أنا سألتكم قبل شوية when I asked you, can I have or can I look at your Chomsky? I supposed or presupposed that you study Chomsky, that you have a textbook with Chomsky as its author. If I told you, for example, I need your math, I presuppose that you study mathematics and you have a book entitled Math, right? So here today in this lecture I'm speaking in English. Why? Because I assume that you all know English, speak English and understand English. This is what is meant by presupposition. When I say my car is a wreck, يعني I presuppose that you, the listener, know that I have a car. إذن بالديكسيز بالinference بالreference كنا with them all we were referring to the speaker. صح? What the speaker means. Now with the presupposition, it is not only what the speaker means. No, it is also what the learner knows. What the hearer knows. or what the hearer assumes to be true or known by him. Okay, this is what is meant by presupposition. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Assistant Lecturer Hajar Mahmoud.